This is the story of how America's most successful jingle writer built a $100 million music empire while hiding his true self for 40 years. Barry Manilow wrote the songs that soundtrack your life, built one of the most enduring careers in popular music, and lived a double life that would finally be revealed when he was in his 70s. Most people know Barry Manilow for the sequins, the Vegas shows, and hits like Mandy and Copacabana. But the real story runs far deeper than that glittery public persona suggests. The Brooklyn beginning. Brooklyn, New York welcomed Barry Allen Pincus on June 17, 1943, in the Williamsburg neighborhood where working families struggled to make ends meet. 2 years later, his Irish Catholic father walked out on the family, and under pressure from Barry's Jewish maternal relatives, they buried the man's name entirely. The boy became Barry Manilow, adopting his mother Edna's maiden name and erasing his father from existence. A wildly loving grandfather named Joe filled that emotional vacuum with weekend trips to Times Square. Every Saturday, Grandpa Joe would march Barry to a scratchy old Record Your Voice booth, drop in a quarter, and plead with the shy boy to sing. One surviving recording captures Barry refusing, yelling no, but Joe never gave up on those musical experiments. Willie Murphy changed everything when he married Barry's mother and brought something unexpected into their small apartment. This tough Irish trucker carried a surprising love for jazz and Broadway cast albums, and soon Willie was bringing home Sinatra records, Duke Ellington, and Count Basie, what Barry would later call his stack of gold. Willie and Edna scraped together money to buy Barry his first piano at 13, opening a door that would never close. School meant awkwardness, bullying, and feeling invisible most days. Eastern District High School shifted that reality when Barry joined the orchestra and discovered he was not just the quiet kid anymore. He had a place. He had purpose. Music became his identity. College years at the New York College of Music and later Juilliard meant balancing studies with a job at CBS to pay the bills. Marriage to high school sweetheart Susan Dixler came in 1964 when Barry was just 21, but his music career began demanding everything from him, and Barry made the heartbreaking decision to walk away from the marriage to pursue his calling. The jingle years, building an empire $500 at a time. Glitter came later, but Barry's career started in jingles during the late 1960s when he was hustling hard in New York, writing advertising tunes that lasted only a few seconds. Advertising agencies plucked him from piano bar work and tasked him with creating musical hooks that had to deliver a memorable riff, a catchy slogan, and a company name in just a few notes. 1971 brought an assignment that would change everything, even though Barry had no idea at the time. State Farm Insurance needed a jingle for their ad copy, like a good neighbor State Farm is there. And Barry came up with a short melody to fit those words, $500. That was his one-time payment. Those same 12 months brought similar $500 checks for jingles that became cultural phenomena. I am stuck on Band-Aid 'cause Band-Aid stuck on me. And memorable tunes for McDonald's flowed from his piano. And these were not just commercials, but master classes in songwriting under pressure. Barry learned how to create unforgettable hooks in impossibly tight constraints, skills that would serve him for decades. More than 50 years later, State Farm still uses Barry's 1971 jingle today. Those 9 simple notes have been sung by countless characters in commercials and even covered by the band Weezer, which means a $500 gig became one of the most persistent earworms in American advertising history. The breakthrough from Bathhouse to Billboard. An unlikely source provided Barry's first big break. Not a record label, but a gay bathhouse where towel-clad patrons sipped cocktails and watched outrageous performances. Continental Baths became Barry's stage in 1971 when he took a pianist gig and met a rising star named Bette Midler. And while steam filled the air, Barry accompanied Betts' shows and quietly sharpened his stage chops. That partnership, formed in steam and sequence, catapulted him into the spotlight, as Betts' growing fame brought Barry exposure to wider audiences. A recording contract followed, first with Bell Records, which later became Arista Records under Clive Davis's leadership. Barry's self-titled debut album appeared in 1973, but his second album made him a star through a song called Mandy. Clive Davis had handed Barry a fast-paced rock tune originally called Brandy, and Barry did not love it until he slowed it down, changed the name, and poured himself into the piano arrangement. A #1 hit came in 1974, establishing him as a major recording artist. Hit after hit followed throughout the late 1970s and the early 1980s. Weekend in New England, Looks Like We Made It, Can't Smile Without You, and Copacabana turned Barry into a platinum-selling artist with a devoted fan base, and his dynamic stage presence made him a beloved figure in the music industry. The contradiction between sequence and solitude. Here is where Barry Manilow's story gets fascinating, because the man on stage bore little resemblance to the man at home. Las Vegas stages lit up with Barry's glitzy jackets and finger-pointing flair, but as soon as the final note hit, he was on a jet headed home. His Las Vegas residency contract included a special clause allowing him to fly 40 minutes home to Palm Springs after every show, because Barry refused to live in the city full-time. He said, "There is just no quiet in Las Vegas," and for Barry, quiet meant everything. Palm Springs became his sanctuary, an 8-bedroom estate perched high in the desert hills where Barry swapped sequins for sweatpants. The peace and stillness of that house offered the exact opposite of stage lights, exactly what he had craved his whole life. It was beautiful, and it was sacred to him. Straight-laced habits made Barry downright rebellious in the rock world. The drug-soaked 70s surrounded him with chaos, but he steered clear entirely. He said he came from a family of alcoholics, so he chose the other path. Tea with Honey replaced backstage parties, while other performers lost themselves in excess. Even his approach to performing defied convention. At 81, Barry still sings every song in its original key with no warm-up at all. No scales, no vocal drills, just trust in his connection with the lyrics. He calls himself an acting singer, not a trained singer, which means instead of chasing perfect notes, Barry leans into emotion and treats every performance like a scene from a play. This contradiction between public glamour and private simplicity would define Barry's entire career, and yet an even bigger contradiction was hiding beneath the surface. The 40-Year Secret. 1978 brought explosive fame for Barry, and it also brought the quiet arrival of Gary Keefe, who entered his life not just as his manager, but as his partner. Their love would remain private for nearly 40 years, hidden from the public eye because Barry feared it would disappoint fans. Barry later admitted that he thought he would be letting them down when he hid his relationship with Gary. 4 decades of living a double life followed. Barry became one of popular music's most romantic songwriters, crafting ballads about love and heartbreak while keeping his own deepest relationship completely secret. Gary was not just Barry's partner, but his business manager, his closest confidant, and the steady presence that kept Barry grounded through decades of fame. A secret marriage took place in 2014, 3 years before Barry would publicly acknowledge their relationship. When Barry finally came out in 2017 at age 74, terror gripped him about the possible reaction. He said the response was beautiful, and he was visibly emotional about the overwhelming support from fans. Gary brought Barry into stepfatherhood and later into grandfather status through his stepdaughter Kirsten, roles Barry treasures deeply. Having lost his own father so early, Barry drew on his stepfather Willie's loving influence in these new relationships. The irony cuts deep. America's most successful writer of love songs spent 40 years unable to publicly acknowledge his own greatest love story. The Empire from $500 to $100 million. Barry Manilow's financial journey mirrors his artistic one, built on consistency and creativity and strategic decisions that brought his net worth to $100 million as of 2025. $500 jingles provided the foundation, but Barry built systematically from there over the decades. 85 million records sold worldwide, and his Las Vegas residencies became legendary, eventually allowing him to surpass Elvis Presley's performance record at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort Casino. 2020 brought perhaps Barry's most interesting business move when he sold his entire music catalog, 917 songs, to Hipgnosis Songs Fund for $7.5 million, with potential bonuses totaling an additional $1.5 million. Disputes arose over those bonuses, leading to ongoing legal battles with Barry filing a lawsuit alleging breach of contract. Business acumen extended beyond music into Broadway with the musical Copacabana, based on his hit song, which premiered in 1994 and enjoyed success both on Broadway and in international productions. The Manilow Music Project followed, providing musical instruments and resources to school music programs in need, often running promotions where fans who donated instruments to schools received free concert tickets. The philosophy, kindness in a loud world. Barry developed a philosophy that seems almost radical in today's entertainment industry: be kind, avoid politics, and focus on bringing joy to people's lives. It's better in here than it is out there, he tells audiences, sometimes joking, let's just lock the doors and order a pizza. Politics never enter his shows because Barry believes music should be a refuge from the world's chaos. This gentle approach extends into his personal life, where friends say he's deeply respectful, handwrites thank you notes, and carries a notepad for uplifting thoughts. His positivity isn't just for show, but a deliberate choice shaped by early experiences with family addiction and abandonment. Even his writer requests reflect this down-to-earth approach. 2 things on his private jet: a party-sized bag of nacho cheese Doritos and a brand new pillow still in its plastic wrap. Walking out of industry events happens when things don't feel right. Comedian Kathy Griffin tells the story of Barry leaving a pre-Grammy party mid-event, hopping on his jet, and skipping the whole night because he didn't like the vibe. He's always known what matters to him and what doesn't. The final act. Authenticity at 81. 81 years old, and Barry Manilow is doing what few icons ever get to do. He is ending on his own terms. 2025 brings his final North American arena tour, called The Last Concerts, a farewell not born of fading relevance, but of choice. Regular performances continue at his lifetime residency at Westgate Las Vegas, but now he lives openly and joyfully with his husband, Gary Keefe. Decades of secrecy have given way to embracing authenticity in his final chapter. Harmony, his long-labored Broadway musical, finally premiered in 2023 in perhaps the most poetic full-circle moment of all. Co-created with longtime lyricist Bruce Sussman, it tells a story of artists trying to create beauty in the face of chaos, which mirrors Barry's entire journey. Grandfather status brings his life full circle, especially meaningful for someone who lost his own father so early. Trading tour dates for quiet mornings in Palm Springs, movie nights at home, and time with family marks this new phase. The real Manilow legacy. An abandoned boy from Brooklyn became Barry Manilow, not just through talent, but through an unwavering commitment to emotional authenticity, even when he could not live that authenticity publicly for decades. $500 jingles grew into a $100 million empire, proving that staying true to your artistic vision can create something lasting, even when it means flying home every night from Vegas, avoiding industry excess, and hiding your deepest truth for 40 years. The State Farm jingle Barry wrote in 1971 still gets sung today. His ballads still soundtrack people's most important moments. His story of late life authenticity offers hope that it is never too late to live openly. Music has the power to heal, inspire, and bring people together. Barry Manilow built his career on that belief. That philosophy, along with his commitment to kindness over chaos, craft over flash, and ultimately courage over fear, may be his most enduring legacy. The man behind the sequins turned out to be exactly what his music always promised. Someone who understood that authenticity, even when delayed, is always worth waiting for.